I'm really glad we can introduce new research focused on a very hot issue concerning COVID-19 and pandemics. The name is Misperception and Reluctance to Get Vaccinated. And I'm really glad we can read it very soon in prestigious academic journal Nature. And authors are Vojtěch Bartoš, Michal Bauer, Jana Cahlíková, and Julie Chytilová. And Michal Bauer is here. Welcome.
Thank you for the invitation.
At the beginning, I need a short reminder, and it's about vaccination in Czech Republic, and maybe if you can compare it with the reality in the rest of the EU.
So I'll show the numbers. So the motivation for this project was, as you have mentioned, the reluctance of a relatively large fraction of people, 20 to 25% of people, depending on a country, choose not to get vaccinated. Either they don't want to, or they may be reluctant to. And that naturally poses the question, what are the sources of this reluctance, and whether there are some cheap, simple ways how we can maybe fight against some misperceptions that lead to this reluctance. On this graph, you can see a comparison of vaccination rate dynamics in the EU. That's the solid line, and the dashed line is the one for the Czech Republic. So you can see that we'll be talking about this issue in a country where the vaccine reluctance is relatively high.
Okay, and the research question is very clear, and we can see many opinions in Czech media. And well, what was the reality, at least among very important opinion leaders, doctors?
Exactly. So here the motivation is, as you say, to look at whether the fact that often when people consume news from media, they tend to be exposed to contrasting views of experts, giving equal share of time to experts with different opinions may be useful for journalists in order to signal that they are objective in their reporting, and that may also attract attention of viewers. On the other hand, it may lead to inaccurate perceptions about what the aggregate, what the overall distribution of views of experts are on a given issue. And in the context of COVID-19 vaccination, we have often seen experts arguing in favor of vaccination, highlighting its efficacy, but at the same time, often similar space have been given to experts and doctors who were more skeptical. So as a first step in this study, we wanted to see what actually doctors think in reality, to bring some hard data to the table. And here an important step in this project was a collaboration with the Czech Medical Chamber, set up by one of the collaborators on this project, Vojtěch Bartoš, who asked essentially all doctors in the Czech Republic to say their opinion, to report their views on COVID-19 vaccination. The survey took place at the beginning of 2021, which was just before the outset of the rollout of the vaccination in the Czech Republic. And the sample here is not 10, 20, 100 doctors, it's 10,000 doctors covering different subgroup of doctors in terms of seniority and locality, and very clear picture arises, which is shown on this picture. You can see that 90% of doctors at the time intended to get vaccinated or were already vaccinated. Only 4% reported not to intend to get vaccinated. So very clear majority of doctors were in favor of vaccinating themselves. They also reported, a similar number reported that they trust the vaccine, and also even more reported that they would recommend the vaccination to their healthy patients. So through this data, we were able to identify strong consensus in favor of getting vaccinated by the whole medical community, so to say.
And now, extremely interesting comparison. It's not about the public perception of vaccination, but public perception of the doctors.
Exactly. So if one thinks about the individual decision whether to get vaccinated, it naturally makes sense that people would think what their doctors think, that it's an important group of experts. In many surveys, we know that people report that doctors are a trusted group of individuals, especially when it comes to health behavior. So it's natural to ask, what does the public think about the views of the doctors? And do they see the strong consensus that I've described on the previous graph? Now here you can see the actual findings. Here the data don't come from doctors. It's a different survey. It's called Life During Pandemics. It started at its longitudinal data collection, asking a representative sample of individuals living in the Czech Republic about their living conditions, and in addition also questions related to their health. Now, around shortly after the survey with doctors, we asked the sample to estimate, to guess what fraction of doctors they think want to get vaccinated. And here you can see the results. This is a histogram that reports the distribution of beliefs of these respondents about the fraction of doctors that want to get vaccinated. And it shows very clear picture. It shows that essentially vast majority of people think that doctors are divided, that it's 50-50, 50% of doctors want to get vaccinated, 50% of doctors don't want to get vaccinated, or some number around that. It's clearly not the case that they would recognize the strong consensus of doctors that we identified in the other study. So to summarize the second result, we find that approximately 90% of respondents actually heavily underestimate doctors' positive views about the vaccination.
Now, slightly different question, but yeah. I would guess that's similar results.
Right. That just shows the robustness of what I was describing with the previous graph, documenting that vast majority of people heavily underestimate doctors' trust in the vaccine.
And now another part of your research. Now you can give me a little bit more explanation of your results. Maybe if you can start with the design of this experiment.
Yeah, thank you. This is very important. So the next question in this in this study was to understand So we have identified these misperceptions, but do these misperceptions really contribute to low vaccine take-up? And and in particular, what happens? We asked what happens if people learn what are the truths? What is the truth? What are the actual views of the doctors? So to answer that question, we have divided the sample of respondents in our panel. So that's approximately 2,000 individuals, in two randomly selected groups. Now the advantage, and the first group was given the actual information, very similar to those that I've explained on the previous slides, essentially giving them the statistical information about what fraction of doctors want to get vaccinated, what fraction of doctors would recommend vaccination to healthy patients, and fraction of doctors who want to get vaccinated. So it's a very simple information, but in fact, it's very informative. It tells people a lot of information in a very simple way. And we were hoping or wanted to test how does it affect their future vaccination take-up. So they got this information at the start of the rollout of the vaccination in early March 2021. And since then, different demographics started to be eligible for the vaccination. And what you can see on this graph is a difference, is a regression coefficient that essentially shows the difference in vaccination take-up between the group that received the information, they knew what doctors think, and the group that didn't have that information. So it's a causal effect of recalibrating people's belief, partially correcting their beliefs about what medical doctors think. And you can see, as expected, in the initial stage when most of the people were not eligible for the vaccination, we don't see positive effects. But these positive effects gradually emerge as more people become more eligible for the vaccination. And at the early July 2021, all adults in the Czech Republic became eligible for the vaccination. And we can see systematic positive effect of knowing what doctors think on our vaccination take-up. Now, what is also interesting, we think, is that these effects are not just temporary. Maybe it's not a temporary effect, meaning that people would, those who receive the information would choose to be vaccinated earlier on, and then people in the control group would catch up. These effects are persistent. They last for at least 8 months. We can see that not only on this graph, which shows the effect on take-up of the first dose of the vaccine, but very similar results we find when we look at the take-up of the second dose, which was recommended for most of the recommended vaccines. And also, when we asked in the last waves about intentions to get vaccinated with the booster shot, with the third dose, the effects are very similar. So this piece of information about views of doctors that lasts approximately 1 minute to read the respondents in the treatment group shapes their vaccination demand 8 months after they receive that information. So so on one hand, here we identify a source of vaccine hesitancy, but also show that it can be relatively easily lifted.
It's fascinating. Now, maybe some broad interpretation, if I may ask you. We hope we are after the worst wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, but still, what's the result, consequences in terms of especially communication in crisis?
Exactly. That's I think one aspect that I would like to highlight. These results, we believe, suggest that clear communication of facts and in a very simple way can go a long way. It seems that we don't need to hire celebrities to try to convince undecided people about vaccination, but providing hard facts, even statistical facts in this case, about opinions of a credible group of people can have lasting impact. So we think this is a relatively cheap intervention for settings like the Czech Republic, where people trust doctors, but may have sizable misperceptions about what they think. We also think that this is not these misperceptions would be specific for the Czech Republic. The fact that different views are given equal share of time in media is a common practice, not just in the Czech Republic, but also many other settings. And we think that this study, that although it focuses on COVID-19 vaccination, may have a broader lessons, because it suggests that this journalistic norm may create this journalistic norm that is sometimes referred to as false balance reporting, may create magnified perceptions of conflict among experts on a controversial issue, and may create a barrier in demand for change or support for policies that deal with these issues. And that may not be only about COVID-19 vaccine, but we can think about many other examples. Debates about climate change, debates about integration, etc., etc.
So I hope we will remember it in some next crisis and hot debate about some crisis issue. Now, just only thank you for presentation of your research, and congratulations to your article in the Nature journal.
Thank you.